Have you ever imagined that a simple coin, something as ordinary as a 1-cent piece from 1977 USA, could be tied to a staggering face value worth $18 million, a story so extraordinary that it has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and enthusiasts across the world, becoming not only a fascinating chapter in numismatic history but also a symbol of how small objects can carry massive significance? And today we are diving deep into the incredible journey of this coin, a journey that stretches across decades, full of intrigue, value speculation, historical context, and the culture of collecting that surrounds coins like the 1977 USA 1 cent, because when we hear about a coin minted in copper alloy with Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait on the obverse, most people think of it as just another penny, one that millions of Americans carried in their pockets during that era, used casually for gum, soda, or added to a piggy bank. Yet the truth is that coins like this, under certain circumstances, develop reputations far beyond their intended function, and the 1977 cent has been discussed and whispered about in the world of rare coins for having a face value in historical accounts of $18 million, which seems almost unbelievable but makes sense when we unpack how rarity, demand, preservation, and myth all collide to inflate the perceived worth of what would otherwise be dismissed as pocket change. And in understanding the story of the 1977 cent, we also explore how coin production in the United States Mint was undergoing changes during the 1970s, with economic pressures, inflation, and material costs driving many discussions about what metals should be used, meaning that the 1977 cent was among the last consistent runs of the traditional bronze alloy pennies before significant shifts in composition came in the early 1980s when copper-plated zinc replaced them. So the 1977 version represents the end of an era, carrying with it a nostalgic weight that resonates with both collectors and ordinary Americans who remember handling them in their youth. But what exactly could give a coin this incredible valuation, and why $18 million, which is not a random figure but part of numismatic lore that has been passed through various collectors' circles, a sum that reflects how auction markets sometimes attach surreal numbers to unique specimens, error coins, or historically important mints, and indeed error coins from 1977 play a significant role in elevating the legend of the 1-cent coin, because error coins are often the most prized among collectors due to their accidental rarity, and in the case of 1977 cents, errors like off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, and repunched mint marks add incredible value, with some specimens already fetching tens of thousands of dollars. But when combined with the myth of a perfectly preserved, one-of-a-kind error piece, stories swirl that such a coin could command astronomical figures at auction, and thus the legend of the $18 million penny was born, inspiring treasure hunters, collectors, and everyday people to dig through jars of change in hopes of stumbling upon one. And if we step back and consider how coin markets operate, it becomes clear that demand is fueled not just by rarity but also by storytelling, because when a coin is tied to a narrative that feels larger than life, its perceived worth skyrockets, and the 1977 cent is a perfect example of how a simple object can embody nostalgia, rarity, myth, and speculative fervor all at once, pushing its name into viral conversations online and making it a trending sensation among both serious collectors and casual enthusiasts who love the idea of finding hidden treasure in everyday objects. But beyond speculation, the 1977 penny also represents the craftsmanship and history of the U.S. Mint, with the Philadelphia and Denver mints producing these coins in the millions. Yet even among such large quantities, the subtle differences in condition, strike quality, and preservation drastically change values, because while a circulated 1977 penny might fetch only face value, a mint state specimen graded by professional grading services at the highest levels could be worth thousands. And when myths of rarities and extraordinary valuations attach themselves to the same date, suddenly the entire year's production becomes the subject of global curiosity, leading to this story of the $18 million valuation, which may be exaggerated but nevertheless underscores the fascinating relationship between coins and culture, because coins are not just metal, they are vessels of memory, history, and financial imagination. And in this case, the coin reminds us of the 1970s, a decade of shifting economies, cultural change, and evolving America, with Lincoln's portrait anchoring continuity amidst it all. But while most people see just a coin, collectors see stories. And that is why this 1-cent piece from 1977 resonates so strongly, because it is not just the copper, not just the design, but the idea that such a simple thing could hold unimaginable value. And when such ideas circulate online, they become viral, because everyone loves the fantasy of checking their drawer or pocket change and discovering something worth millions. And so the 1977 cent, with its rumored $18 million face value, continues to trend and capture imaginations, reminding us that history is not always locked away in museums but sometimes jingles quietly in our hands, waiting for recognition. And this narrative, deeply tied to hope, nostalgia, and speculation, ensures that the 1977 penny will never just be a penny again. And as we close this exploration of how a tiny coin became associated with such a monumental figure, it's clear that the world of numismatics is as much about dreams as it is about facts. So the next time you come across a 1977 penny, look closely. Check for errors, appreciate its history, and who knows, maybe one day you'll be the lucky one holding the coin that embodies this extraordinary legend. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating story of the 1977 1-cent coin and its incredible rumored valuation, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing stories about coins worth big money in history. Next, today's fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins where history, mistakes, and pure chance collide to create treasures worth millions. And today we are exploring one of the most astonishing stories you'll ever hear in numismatics, the 1997 1-cent coin, a penny that in normal circumstances would only be worth a single cent, but because of its unique errors, its production anomalies, and the powerful combination of rarity and demand, has been appraised in special circumstances at an unbelievable $12 million, a figure that shocks collectors and non-collectors alike. So let us begin by unfolding the journey of this small copper-plated zinc coin minted by the United States Mint during a time when billions of pennies were being struck every year, and no one could have imagined that one of them could one day fetch the price of a mansion, a luxury yacht, or a fleet of sports cars. And yet here we are telling this very story. So first let's consider the context in which the 1997 penny was created, because during the 1990s the U.S. Mint was producing pennies in the billions each year, primarily at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with Lincoln's bust on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. And by 1997 this design was familiar to nearly every American alive. It jingled in pockets, sat in drawers, and often went unnoticed because of its small value. Yet within those billions of coins sometimes accidents happen, mistakes slip through the cracks, and those errors can make a coin not just unusual but astronomically valuable. And with the 1997 1-cent coin we are talking about a perfect storm of minting errors that turned an otherwise common coin into one of the most sought after and talked about pieces in modern coin collecting history. So what kinds of mistakes could elevate a 1-cent coin to a $12 million valuation? Well, let's explore them one by one, beginning with the concept of double die errors, which are among the most famous in coin history. This happens when the die that strikes the coin is itself improperly manufactured, so the design elements are slightly doubled, creating noticeable doubling on the coin's features like the date, the lettering, or even Lincoln's profile. And collectors absolutely treasure these kinds of mistakes because they are rare, accidental, and impossible to replicate. Now in the case of the 1997 1-cent, the rumor and fascination revolves around an extraordinary double die obverse where Lincoln's face and parts of the motto appear slightly doubled in a dramatic way, which immediately set it apart as a mistake coin of the highest order. But that's not all, because the 1997 penny is also associated with off-center strikes, a situation where the blank planchet is not correctly aligned with the dies when struck, causing part of the design to appear off the edge and leaving a blank crescent of metal on the coin. And while most off-center strikes are interesting but not world-shattering, the ones that still show the full date and clear design elements are extremely desirable. And the 1997 penny in question combined a double die error with an off-center strike, making it a double rarity. But even beyond that, there are reports of wrong planchet errors in 1997 pennies where a 1-cent coin was struck on a dime planchet or even on foreign coin planchets used in minting contracts for other countries. And such wrong planchet errors are among the most jaw-dropping finds because they combine the recognizable design of one denomination with the metal composition and size of another, creating a hybrid that should never exist. And if we take all these potential anomalies together, double die, off-center, wrong planchet, we can begin to see how a 1997 penny could achieve legendary value, because the marketplace for rare coins is driven by rarity, demand, and story. And this particular penny has all three. Now let us talk about why collectors are willing to pay millions for such a coin, because on the surface it seems absurd to spend $12 million on a 1-cent piece, yet when you realize that this is not just a coin but a unique artifact, a historical mistake frozen in metal, a piece that literally should not exist, It starts to make sense in the world of ultra-wealthy collectors and numismatic enthusiasts, much like how rare stamps, baseball cards, or works of art command incredible sums. Rare coins too can climb into the stratosphere of valuation, and the 1997 penny, with its combination of errors, its scarcity, and its notoriety among collectors, has become a kind of holy grail for the right buyer. And beyond the monetary value, there is also the historical intrigue, because 1997 was not a particularly famous year for coin collecting, yet here lies a coin that defies the odds and writes its own legend, a reminder that even in an age of mass production, human error and mechanical imperfection can create treasures beyond imagination. And now let's explore in more detail the possible types of errors that could have occurred with this coin, starting with die cracks, which are small fractures in the die that leave raised lines or shapes on the coin, often referred to as cuds, when pieces of the die break off and leave large blobs or missing sections in the design. A dramatic die crack on Lincoln's head or across the date could easily make a coin stand out. Then we have broad strike errors, where the collar that normally holds the coin in place fails, causing the coin to spread out larger and flatter than normal, often with distorted lettering, and these are highly collectible when they happen on modern coins. Then consider clip planchets, where the coin blank was improperly cut from the metal sheet, leaving a curved or straight missing section on the edge of the coin. These clips can be small or dramatic and make for striking error coins. Then there are multiple strike errors, where the coin is struck more than once by the dies, leading to ghostly images of Lincoln's profile overlapping or repeating, a haunting and highly collectible effect. And of course there are transitional errors, where a coin is struck with the wrong metal composition. For example, if a 1997 penny were accidentally struck with the older bronze alloy instead of the modern copper-plated zinc, it would be heavier, visually different, and incredibly valuable. All of these possibilities swirl around the mystique of the 1997 penny, and when collectors whisper about a $12 million valuation, it is not because of one small blemish, but because this coin represents an extraordinary alignment of multiple errors and near mythical rarity. And as we continue to imagine the path of this coin from its accidental creation at the mint to its discovery in circulation, perhaps found by an unsuspecting person receiving change at a store, the story becomes even more compelling, because the magic of coin collecting lies in the fact that treasures can still be out there in the wild waiting to be found, maybe sitting in a jar of change on a kitchen counter, or in an old coin roll at a bank, or hidden in the back of a drawer for decades until someone takes a closer look and realizes they are holding a fortune in their hand. And that is why so many people are fascinated by rare pennies, because they represent the dream of finding hidden wealth in the most ordinary of places. Now let's consider the psychology of collectors and why a single coin can ignite such bidding wars. It comes down to rarity, prestige, and the human desire to own something no one else can have. Owning the only known example of a dramatic 1997 penny error coin is like owning the Mona Lisa of pennies. It places you in a very exclusive club of individuals who can claim possession of a truly one-of-a-kind artifact, and when wealthy collectors compete for such items, the prices can spiral upward into the tens of millions, which is how we get to this staggering $12 million valuation. And beyond the collector world, stories like this also capture the imagination of the general public, sparking news headlines, YouTube videos, social media posts, and conversations among everyday people who suddenly start checking their pockets for rare coins. So the impact of a single coin like this spreads far beyond the numismatic community, inspiring dreams, curiosity, and excitement. Now let's also discuss the role of grading services like PCGS or NGC, because professional authentication and grading are essential in confirming that a coin is genuine, that its errors are mint-made and not post-mint damage, and that its condition is accurately described. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. So if a 1997 penny error coin of this magnitude was authenticated and graded at a high level, say MS 65 or higher, that alone could propel its value into the millions. And combined with its unique errors, it could truly reach the $12 million mark. Furthermore, let's imagine the auction scene where such a coin would be presented. Collectors from around the world, dealers, investors, and enthusiasts all waiting as the bidding begins, the price climbing higher and higher, the tension rising as each new bid pushes the value into record-breaking territory. And then the final hammer falls at $12 million, cementing the 1997 penny's place in history as one of the most expensive coins ever sold. And what makes this story so compelling is not just the money, but the reminder of how the smallest things can sometimes hold the greatest value, how mistakes and imperfections, often overlooked or discarded, can become treasures, and how history is often written in the unlikeliest of places, even on a coin worth 1 cent. Last Today we are going to explore the story of the 1989 D 1-cent coin, a coin that might look like just another common penny in your change jar, but under certain circumstances has been associated with a staggering valuation of up to $7 million because of its incredible errors, minting mistakes, and the possibilities that make it one of the most talked about coins in numismatic circles. And as we unfold this journey together, you'll see how such an ordinary-looking coin minted in Denver back in 1989 can rise to such legendary status, how mint errors and imperfections transform a simple 1-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar collectible, and why collectors are constantly scanning their pockets, wallets, and rolls of pennies to see if they might have the next fortune hiding in plain sight. So let's imagine for a moment the background of this coin. The 1989 D penny is a Lincoln cent bearing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, a design first issued in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth and which has remained iconic through the decades, and in 1989 billions of these coins were minted with the Denver Mint striking hundreds of millions bearing the D mint mark, yet among these countless coins a very small number were struck with serious and dramatic errors. Errors that slipped through quality control and made their way into circulation or into collectors' hands, errors that have since become legendary and extremely valuable. Now what kinds of mistakes are we talking about? One of the most prominent categories of error for the 1989 D cent involves double die errors, where the design on the coin appears doubled because of a misalignment during the hubbing process when the design is impressed onto the die. A doubling can occur on Lincoln's profile, on the lettering of "In God We Trust," or on the date and mint mark, and such doubling can range from slight and barely noticeable to bold and dramatic. And when bold doubling occurs, collectors recognize it as a rare and highly sought-after error, and in the right condition, such a double-die coin can skyrocket in value, with the rarest and most dramatic versions reaching prices in the millions if collectors are convinced of its uniqueness and historical importance. Then there are off-center strikes, another fascinating category of error that can add immense value to a coin. An off-center strike happens when the blank planchet is not properly seated in the coining press, causing the design to be struck off-center, sometimes showing only part of Lincoln's bust or leaving blank metal exposed on one side of the coin. And while minor off-centers may not command huge premiums, dramatic ones where half the coin is blank can turn a penny into a multi-thousand or even multi-million-dollar rarity. And in the case of the 1989 D, documented examples of extreme off-center strikes exist that elevate the coin into legendary status. Then we must not forget about broad strike errors, when a coin is struck outside of the retaining collar, causing it to expand wider than normal. This gives the penny a strange flattened and stretched appearance, and while unusual, such coins fascinate error collectors and can fetch impressive sums. Another highly significant error possibility involves the 1989 D struck on the wrong planchet, meaning instead of being struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet, it could have been struck on a planchet intended for another denomination such as a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin. Planchet accidentally fed into the presses at the Denver Mint. Such wrong planchet errors are some of the most valuable in all of numismatics, with famous examples from other years selling for hundreds of thousands or even millions at auction. And if such a mistake happened in 1989 with the Denver Mint mark, it could be worth the staggering $7 million figure that collectors sometimes attach to these coins. Now let's consider the transitional error possibilities. 1989 was well into the era when Lincoln cents were made of copper-plated zinc, a change that began in 1982, yet minting errors can sometimes involve leftover copper planchets from earlier years being struck by mistake, and a 1989 D penny struck on a 95% copper planchet rather than the intended copper-plated zinc would be extremely rare and valuable, with copper cents weighing 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams. Collectors weigh coins carefully to detect such anomalies, and if a 1989 D were proven to be a transitional wrong planchet strike, its rarity would make it one of the most valuable pennies of the modern era. Now beyond wrong planchets and off-center strikes, there are also clipped planchet errors where the blank planchet was punched out of a metal sheet in such a way that part of the coin is missing, leaving a curved clip. Such clipped coins are prized by error specialists, and a dramatic clip on a 1989 D cent could raise its value astronomically. Then there are die cracks, cuds, and other die break errors, where the die itself develops fractures or breaks during the minting process, transferring raised lines, blobs, or missing sections of design onto the coin. These errors make every affected coin unique, and when combined with a date like 1989 D, can transform an ordinary penny into a rarity worth thousands or more. The true fascination lies not just in these technical errors but in the story they tell. The Denver Mint in 1989 was a powerhouse of production. churning out billions of coins for circulation. Yet even with modern quality control, mistakes slip through, and because billions were minted, hunting through these coins to find the rare mistakes has become a kind of treasure hunt. Every day people across the United States and even around the world still search their change jars and bank rolls hoping to uncover one of these elusive errors, and what makes the 1989 D so legendary is that a handful of unique combinations of errors, such as a dramatic double die combined with a wrong planchet or a major off-center strike combined with a clear mint mark, could result in a one-of-a-kind coin, a piece so rare that when it surfaces, wealthy collectors, museums, and investors all compete to own it, driving its price into the millions. The coin market thrives on rarity, condition, and desirability, and the 1989 D penny fits perfectly into this formula when errors are involved. Mint state examples with errors are even more valuable because they preserve every detail of the mistake, untouched by circulation, and professional grading by organizations like PCGS or NGC can authenticate these errors and assign grades, further boosting the coin's desirability. And once authenticated, these coins often appear in major auctions where bidding wars push prices sky high, sometimes into the millions. Now imagine holding in your hand what seems to be a common penny, but on closer inspection you see dramatic doubling on the date, or you weigh it and discover it is heavier than it should be, or you notice the design is way off center. Suddenly you're not holding just a penny, you're holding a potential fortune, and that possibility is what fuels the passion of collectors, and why the 1989 D penny has become synonymous with the dream of finding hidden treasure. While not every 1989 D penny is valuable, most are still worth just face value. The rare ones with the right errors are where the real magic lies, and in coin collecting, the line between an ordinary cent and a multi-million-dollar prize is razor thin, hinging on details only the careful eye will spot. As we look at history, we see that coins with errors have often broken records at auction, such as the 1955 double die cent or the 1943 copper cent, and those examples set the precedent for how an error coin like the 1989 D can be worth astronomical sums, with some estimates placing unique specimens as high as $7 million. Because of their rarity, condition, and desirability. So the next time you get change at a store or open a bank roll of pennies, remember that one small copper-plated zinc coin dated 1989 D could hold the key to unimaginable wealth, and that's why collectors across the world remain obsessed with these coins, hunting, studying, and dreaming, because one discovery could change a life forever. And that is the true allure of coin collecting, a hobby that combines history, art, and treasure hunting all in one. And as we wrap up this deep exploration of the 1989 D penny and its incredible journey from 1 cent to potentially $7 million, I invite you to keep looking, keep learning, and keep your eyes open for these rare treasures, because you never know what might be hiding in your pocket. And if you enjoyed this story of hidden value and the fascinating world of error coins, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more incredible journeys into the treasures of history and the coins that connect us to it.